According to a recent Rasmussen Reports poll, 26% of Black Americans say it's not okay to be white. So the first thing I want to do is go over a clip from Scott Adams, the creator of the cartoon strip Dilbert, and what he had to say. He got himself into some hot water, and just take a listen to what he said here. I'm going to react to it.
So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group.
So what he's basically saying is he's coming to it from an analytical standpoint. If 26% of people don't think it's okay for you to be the skin tone that you were born in, then that's obviously hate, right? That's where he's coming from. So let's just keep going.
And I don't want to have anything to do with them.
Okay, so regardless of what's going on with this particular statement here, in terms of just in general, if someone said this person hates you, what would be your response to that person? Most people would say, get away from that person, okay? I mean, that's just logic, right? He's coming to this from a very analytical standpoint. And if you read Dilbert at all, you understand that he is a very analytical person, and the comic strip is very analytical. It's based on computers, it's based on technology, it's based on the office, it's based on things that are dealing with really hard and fast realities that people deal with every single day. And it's very, very matter of fact.
And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get away.
All right, so now he's taking one step further. So if someone hates you, the logical response is to get away from that person. And then the next step is to bring it into phase related to this particular poll. So now he's narrowing it into this. Anywhere else in the world, anywhere else, that would be a logical progression until you're dealing with this poll, dealing with black people. And that's what this video is all about, is to break that down as to why that is.
Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this.
Now, that's where I disagree with him. Stick around to the end of the video. I'm going to tell you where the sentiment is really coming from.
This can't be fixed, right? This can't be fixed. You just have to escape. So that's what I did. I went to a neighborhood where, I have a very low black population. Because unfortunately, there's a high correlation between the density. And this is according to Don Lemon, by the way. So here I'm just quoting Don Lemon when he notes that when he lived in a mostly black neighborhood, there were a bunch of problems that he didn't see in white neighborhoods.
Respect where you live. I live in Harlem now. It's an historically black neighborhood. Every single day I see adults and children dropping their trash on the ground when a garbage can is just feet away.
But those who don't want to focus on education, you just need to get away from them. Just get as much distance as you can.
So that's what Scott Adams said. And like I said before, he brought it into a 3-tier level there of, okay, if someone hates you, okay, that's number one. Number two, you don't want to be around people who hate you. That's typically could be unsafe. And then he ties it into this poll from Rasmussen Reports. Now, this brings me to my first point, and that is, this is not new. This is something that black people have been thinking for a long time. And this comes from essentially a racist, Marxist ideology that's crept its way into black America, going way back when the Marxist movement was creeping its way and co-opting the civil rights movement. And that leads me to point number 2. That is, this is all about Marxism. I recently did an interview with a person by the name of Chad O. Jackson. You may have seen him. He was the star of Uncle Tom 1 and Uncle Tom 2, a Larry Elder production, which has been all over the world in terms of its theatrical representation. It stars Candace Owens, the first one did, and then brought in Voddie Baucham and lots of black known activists and personalities and people who just have common sense. And this film, Uncle Tom 2 in particular, is an incredible film. And I interviewed Chad O. Jackson, and I want you to hear what he said about this, about the civil rights movement and how it was co-opted by Marxism.
In the research for the films, we did look at every second of every minute of every hour of piece of footage that exists on Martin Luther King. Not only that, but I've read all 7 volumes of his books, of his papers. Churches began to join the ranks of the SCLC and other such organizations that were basically Marxist front groups. The nonviolent protesting tactic was encouraged by Bayard Rustin, who received training specifically as it relates to nonviolence from the Communist Party, from the CPUSA. The March on Washington was also Bayard Rustin's idea. Stanley Levison, who was a white Jewish communist, was basically Martin Luther King's right-hand man. He was he was a treasurer for a communist front group in New York. Clarence B. Jones, who was an attorney out of California, was also in that inner circle. And the three of them, Rustin, Jones, and Levison, were Martin Luther King's speechwriters. They wrote most of his speeches throughout his career. I say that to say this: you can tell once again by those who were closest to Martin Luther King, those who advised him, those who ordered his steps, and then his willing participation and being what they crafted him into, that this was a clear and concise co-option, a subversion of the Christian faith, particularly in the Black South. And this carried over into other aspects of the American church up until this very day.
And so this brings us to point number 3. And sadly, it's about power and money. And so we'll hear what Chad has to say about that.
And so what the media does is that they come along and say, well, look, all of this success is embodied in this social justice leader. All of this success is embodied in Martin Luther King. You know, if we're talking about climate change, all of the success is embodied in Greta Thunberg, not realizing that these people are mere pawns. These people are mere cogs in the wheel. The whole stage is set, funded, and seen through, once again, by the power elites who stand to gain from the expanded role of the federal government in our lives. And so that, for me, is the reason why I'm against wokeism. I'm against social justice, because you'll find 10 times out of 10 that the net result, the net desire of these movements is to chisel away at our rights as American citizens, to, in a sense, defy the Constitution and to expand the role of the federal government in our lives.
So I just gave you the 3 reasons why this is probably worse than you think, this poll that is. But now I'm going to tell you exactly what this sentiment is all about and where it's coming from. Essentially, if you look at Ephesians 6, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Now, I know some of you may think, okay, Kyle, you kind of jumped the shark there, but no, this is a reality. And if you look around the world right now, you see what is good is evil and what is evil is good, and it's just chaos and there's no logic whatsoever. But there's some logic behind that because of this verse right here. I suggest you read the entire chapter for full context, but nevertheless, we see it, you know it, things that are clearly wrong, people are saying is right. And so I'm going to leave you with this. This is what I put out on Twitter. Take a look at this. I said this: the issue is never the issue is always the revolution. This is a Marxist mantra which is popularized by the Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, in 1960. And so what this is basically saying is that these leftists, these Marxists, these communists don't care about the real issue. They don't care about logic, don't care about reason, like Scott Adams brought us through meticulously through his line of reasoning. They don't care about that. The issue is the narrative. The issue is the revolution. That's all they care about. That explains all these things like hands up, don't shoot, which is proven to be false, but no one talks about that. No one talks about the facts of issues anymore. No one talks about certain things that we see because it does not fit a certain leftist narrative and agenda. And this is why. And so, but the solution is going back to a biblical framework, a biblical worldview where our founders had in mind that we come from our creator, God, and that we are going to do things based on the rights that he gives us that government can't take from us. And ultimately, we need to love one another and follow these core principles and to push back on these leftist narratives which have no basis in reality, logic, or reason.